have a question for you. And this shouldn't be hard. Once you have it, just raise your hand. What is your most memorable customer experience? It should be easy. Put your hand up. Tell me this, if you can. As you think about that experience, is there a word that comes to mind? Is there an emotion that comes to mind? Just shout it out. How did you feel? Easy. Felt easy. You felt connected. Felt ready. What was that one? Ready? Special. Did you feel special? Special. I like that one. Were any of your experiences bad? Was your memorable experience bad? Because I didn't ask good or bad. I asked memorable. Anybody have a bad one? Just a couple. Normally when I do this, at least 99% of the people in the room remember a good experience. And you talked about feeling special and ready. And the thing there is, when we feel heard, it's so close to being loved that for the average person, the two are indistinguishable. So then we have to back up and we have to ask ourselves, as brands and as companies, you expect of yourself what you expect for yourself. It's a big question. Because when we walk into a restaurant, when we walk into a hotel, when we walk into an event, we have an expectation that we will feel special. It will be ready and it will be easy. But we don't always hold ourselves to those same standards. I want to talk to you about the concept of uncertainty. And I wish for everybody here, at some juncture in your personal or professional life, you feel an overwhelming amount of uncertainty. I do. I wish that for you because it's actually a great thing. I felt it a few times. Professionally, I've worked in life sciences for, I don't want to age myself, so I'll do it in like dog years. In dog years, it's like 7 years that I've worked in life sciences. And I felt, I worked for big brands. I worked for major brands. I did what I thought were amazing things, and I was getting recruited, and I was getting hired, and I was hiding my imposter syndrome behind my ego. I was, and I didn't realize it until I was sitting in a doctor's office one day, and I heard the 3 words you don't want to hear. And everything's good now, but the next week I went to another doctor's office, and I heard something even worse, and my path just completely disappeared. And I realized at that moment that I had been completely arrogant. And I hadn't really understood what it's like to be the patient, what it's like to sit in front of a physician and try to figure out where we're going to go next. So uncertainty for me in both of those moments was actually a gift. And I looked at it as a gift, and it led me to 3 places. The first one, and I needed this one because I doubted it. I was uncertain about humanity. I really was uncertain about the people around me and the people that were supposed to be helping patients. And that this concept of moral beauty is when somebody does something unselfish for somebody else. And when we see it, when we witness it, we feel awe. Most awe, that emotion of awe, that powerful emotion of awe, is one human doing something for another human. I realized also in that moment that uncertainty around, is this drug going to work? And it wasn't necessarily about the drug. It wasn't necessarily about the surgery. It was equally, if not even more, about the experience. And what dawned on me was that experience actually has clinical implications if we make it easier and more effective and more in line with people's expectations. I like the word compassion over empathy. I think empathy is that we feel what somebody feels. Compassion is we do something about it. Then that's medicine in and of itself. And the other one was, you're young and you're in business and you want to be the smartest person in the room. And if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So what I realized was that a high CQ, particularly when you're uncertain, a high curiosity quotient, is more important than a high IQ. And I began to think about curiosity a lot. I'm in airports all the time, and I'm often in airports by myself. And this is when curiosity hit me. I was standing on the moving sidewalk. Well, I was walking on the moving sidewalk because I'm an American and we want to move on the moving sidewalk. And I got up there and there's this mom and this young girl, and they're standing there. And it was kind of a beautiful moment. The little girl had like her little elephant suitcase behind her. And I stopped behind them and I'm standing there, and she did, she was about 4. And she did what 4-year-olds do. She tugged on her mother's arm and she asked her, "Why are baby elephants so big?" And the mother answered. I didn't think it was the best answer. I thought it was a pretty good answer. And the mother said, "That's because their mommies are so big." And the moving sidewalk ends and they go their way and I go mine, but I'm certain about this. If you know 4-year-olds, that conversation in some permutation or another continued with a series of what if and why not and how come questions. Why? Because when we're 4 years old, we ask between 200 and 400 questions a day. We're trying to make sense of the world around us. And then we go to school, we go to primary school, and in primary school we find out, there's right and wrong answers to things. I'm going to get graded on if I'm right or wrong. Yes or no, A, B, or C, 2 plus 2 is 4. I go to secondary school, it gets even more, right? Suddenly curiosity gives way to convention. I go to college. Yeah, you might experiment a little bit. I think I did. But we get a little bit more curious in college, and then you go to work. And you work in a big corporation, and you realize pretty quickly that your advancement has a lot to do with alignment. It doesn't have a lot to do with curiosity. And we begin to lose our curiosity. And I felt this at work. And then what dawned on me at this moment was I was working in a miracle factory. We made medicines. We made a product that changed the course of disease and damage and injury and illness in human beings. That's incredible. And that overwhelming sensation that that's what we do. We don't just sell a drug to people. We actually make miracles. Now, pharmaceutical companies, nobody's going to say in their label it's a miracle, right? But you can think about it. You don't have to tell anybody. So the curiosity kind of triggered in me that usually the most interesting situations can begin with a what-if question. So I started to ask a lot of what-if questions. What if marketing and selling great medicines was only part of that miracle, was only part of that product? What if the experience that we wrapped around the drug was as miraculous as the drug? What if we treated it with that level of respect? This is a CAR-T therapy that changes the course of cancer in people. People that would die from something years ago were living with it. People that were dying from HIV were suddenly living with it. And I was getting to work on these products, and I thought, but the experience that we're delivering is kind of terrible. We're badgering doctors. Oh, read this message, open this email. We're sending people out to talk to them. We're creating these massive websites. In the US, where I live, we're spending millions of dollars. 1 in 3 ads on TV in the United States is a pharmaceutical ad. Try eating dinner and watching that at the same time. And why can't we start to create experiences that are better? And I got really curious about whether or not I was crazy. Is this real? So I found this piece of research, and I met the woman that did it. I stalked her, if I'm being honest, and I wanted to understand the whole concept of the experience effect, which she calls the treatment effect. This is the drug. It's a quarter. It's a quarter of what happens to you. The rest of it is experiential. Our physiology changes. If a physician walks up to you in the office and says, "Here's a prescription, go fill it, I'll see you in 3 weeks." There's a really good chance that you're not even going to fill it. You definitely are not confident. If the physician walks up to you, as mine did, and said, "Look, this is serious, but I've had great experience with this drug, and I've had great experience with other patients, and you and I are in this together, and I feel like this is really going to help you," and they put their arm on you, guess what? You could be taking a placebo, and you will do better than the other person. And this research bore that out. DT Consulting put this out in 2024, which showed that when we go out to talk to a physician about a drug, we're talking about, is it safe? Is it efficacious? It's more safe, more efficacious than this other drug. Well, guess what? In order to get approved by whatever governing body you're approved by, you had to be safe and efficacious to begin with. You wouldn't even be in the market. But 35% of what a physician makes a decision on is about the experience. Is it easy to consume your content? Is this going to cause me practice burden? Is it going to be easy for my patients? Is it going to be more easy for me to manage this drug? Do you guys actually care? Are you showing up with resources that I need? And then this other 15% of company reputation is arguably some combination between the two of them. So when science is on everybody's side, how are you going to win? So the notion that getting grounded in customer experience meant it's a battleground. If you don't believe that you're competing on customer experience, you are. No matter what drug you are competing on customer experience with somebody else or with nothing. Your customers could very easily do nothing. They could pick you, or they could pick nothing, or they could pick something else. You are competing on experience. The ones that realize that are probably doing better than the ones that don't. But we work in healthcare. So we've got Merck here, and we've got Roche here, and we've got Novo Nordisk here, and we've got a lot of big major pharmaceutical companies. And guess what you all share? Customers. You're calling on the same doctors. Those doctors are treating the same patients. Many patients are on a number of your products. One of us can't be good at it, and the rest of us be terrible. It falls apart. This is an industry-wide call to action for us to get better at customer experience. That's the common ground. Then there's the proving ground. I can't name a company that I've walked into that hasn't said, we want to be more innovative, and we've got a whole innovation department. And then they'll say, we think like Amazon. And at Amazon, they say that you always leave an empty chair in the room for the customer. Well, what we just saw in the last presentation is that chair wasn't empty. It was actually filled with the customer. How are you going to innovate without the customer voice inside the program? If you're not bringing it in, it's not innovation. It's guessing. So, experience as a medicine is also a business approach. When we think about what we're trying to do in business, we're trying to create efficiencies. We're trying to create effectiveness. We're trying to reduce the cost of acquisition or the cost of reacquisition. We're trying to reduce the cost to serve. We're trying to reduce churn. Our drugs have a mechanism of action, but do they also have a mechanism of advocacy? That we're creating the experiences, we're creating the fertile ground where physicians and patients can take the action that we want them to take. Are we enabling that for them? Because this is about business. And we know that we have to act on any uncertainty that our customers might have about our drug. But how do you know? If you're only looking at operational metrics, clicks and visits and views and downloads and how many times the rep went in the office, and not experiential metrics, then you and your agency are hallucinating. Because we don't know for sure. What about the customer that didn't do what you wanted them to do? Why didn't they do it? What was the barrier? What was the friction between them and the action that you wanted them to take? Look at this. In this case, when we talk about our products, we talk about the flower. How wonderful the flower is, how great the flower is. But did Mario want the flower? No. He wanted to throw fireballs. Actually, he wanted peach. But that's what we're selling. We're selling what that person feels like. We're selling that ability for that customer to throw fireballs. But we spend all of our time talking about this. What experiential data is going to tell us is, what's that fireball they want to throw? What's that fireball they need to throw? It's not that I want to be well, it's I want to not be sick. It's not that, I want the best medicine for my patient. I didn't want that person ever have to walk into my office to begin with, but now that they're here, now that I'm confronted with the reality, what's the easiest path to get them as best as I can make them be? I broke it. I knew it would happen. I still broke it. There we go. All right, so the framework is pretty simple. A lot of times in a lot of companies, you probably have tech debt, and it's probably because somebody came in and they told you a bunch of case studies and a bunch of things about their technology, and you bought the technology. But there was work to be done beforehand, and the best companies that come to you do this work beforehand. I believe when I talk to companies, one of the things that I love to do is sit down with them and say, in 12 to 18 months, what case study do you want to be true? What case study do you want to show to your leadership? What case study do you want published in the Harvard Business Review, in the London Times? What is it? And then we write it. Because the only way we're going to get to it is if we deconstruct the path to it. And we have to know what it is. It should live on the top of every document. Everybody should know this is the case study that we're aiming for, because this case study is good for customers, it's good for colleagues, and it's good for our company. Then there's the skill sets, and you have to get ruthless about this. You have to look at, we're going to collect experience data. Are we prepared to take the hard data and the good data, and actually do something with it? Do we have the skill sets to do it? If not, you need to build them, you need to buy them, or you need to figure out who your partners are. And toolset-wise, invite partners who share your mindset, who complement your skill set. When the RFP goes out, that's the first thing I'm trying to understand. Are they aligned with us? Do they want to do what we do? Do they complement us? Do they enhance us in any way? And does their program bring gas? Right? Fireballs. And by gas, I don't mean gasoline. I mean, do the people that are coming to work on your product give a shit? Do they really care about it working? Do they deeply, deeply care that the experiences for patients and the experiences for doctors can be better because there's moral beauty in that, and other humans are going to get better? I get to wake up in the morning and look in my mirror and go, I had a small part in that. And that's the beauty of doing this. So a lot of times I'll get to this point and everybody's nodding, everybody's agreeing, like, that sounds great, but what gets in our way? And oftentimes the problem's not the problem. The problem's how we're thinking about the problem. The problem is our attitude about the problem. So how do we change that? How do we shift and reframe how we look at it? Well, what we do as an industry, it actually works. Sending out armies of reps works exceedingly well. I live in the United States, where I said 1 in 3 commercials in the evening is a pharmaceutical commercial. We have people on TV dancing about diabetes and singing about psoriasis nightly. You think AbbVie would have spent $49 million, which they did last month, on Skyrizi and Rinvoq if that $49 million didn't work? It did. And the biggest problem with it is it works. But then we look at the numbers. The industry SG&A, so the selling and general administration expenses, are over 24%. That's a crazy number, because other industries, that ratio is about half. It's about 8 to 12. We spent $46 million in 2024 on advertising and promotion, and the majority of that was in the US. 5% of the global population, 42% of the industry's revenues on average. But we're subsidizing inefficiencies with our growth dollars. Why are we doing that as an industry? And it's a simple answer. It's a really simple answer. The simple answer is customers break ties, not hippos. Do you know what hippos are? They're the highest paid people's opinions. It's a deference to hierarchy. Customers break ties. If you're sitting there and saying, should we do this campaign? Should we expand this campaign? Should we put new pages on our website? Who decides? Customers decide. Customers give you direction. If your ad agency is walking in with this big idea and it's not infused with customer data, it's the beauty of how you're organized, by the way, at Cap2 and Scrubber, it's the beauty of how it's organized, because the idea is infused by the customer voice. The customer voice is inside. That is the proving ground. And it's essential that we begin to act this way. And customer feedback, I don't know what happened to this graphic. Wow, that's not what I saw last night. And I only had one drink when I got back to the hotel. Customer feedback, and this is water. So. Maybe. It's a curiosity factory, and what you should see here is the medical conferences, the call centers, the websites, the reps speaking to the doctors. When we get feedback from them, we should be asking questions. When I look at customer feedback, particularly that open field, the open-ended feedback, I'm like, whoa, why would they say that? What drove that what drove that comment in the feedback? Why would they say, like, the package was too heavy? Why would they say I was embarrassed? Why did they say I didn't understand? Why would they say that, I'm a caregiver and this content's not right for me? Why would they say that? You should be asking, when you look at that feedback, 100 questions. You should get extremely curious about it. It's a gift that your customers have given you for your brand. I promise no more graphics will be messed up like that. So what if every idea for every new drug was informed by the customer's desired experience. I worked on a project recently where before the scientists went to the bench to develop a molecule, we asked patients with the disease, if we were to create a drug, what would you want it to be? We can't cure your disease yet, but what would you want the drug to be? How would you want it delivered? How would you want to pay for it? How would you want to feel when you took it? And we took that data to the scientists and we said, make this. The customer's voice is inside the drug from the very beginning. You know, what if we studied the impact of experience inside of clinical trials? Clinical trials don't just fail because of the clinical, they fail because of the logistical. They fail because things break down. Somebody wasn't able to communicate with somebody else. Somebody didn't understand. Somebody in the trial couldn't get there because they felt too sick. That's a logistical problem. What if we knew that? What if we could fix that? What if we knew they're going to be sick, so they're probably going to drop out? Why don't we send an Uber to their house? These things are all possible if we listen to our customers. What if experience informed and validated an expedited launch strategy? Christian showed the data this morning from McKinsey on how many launches fail to meet the first year endpoints. And when they fail to meet year one, they will struggle in year two. You're not getting out of that quicksand. It should have never happened because we did not treat the launch with the same miraculous approaches of the drug that we spent 13 years making a drug that's going to enter the market as a teenager with a 20-year life expectancy. Man, what an opportunity to bring the customer's voice into the launch, to look at the phase 3 data. We shouldn't be designing the patient service platform when we get to our approval date. It should have been designed through voice of the customer while we were in phase 3 trials. What an amazing opportunity for customer feedback. And sales. Every time I work with reps and reps get feedback, I had a pharmaceutical company say to me, they said, hey, look, we want to collect some data from doctors after the reps go out and talk to them, but we don't want the reps to think we're spying on them. I'm like, oh, well, if they don't know you are spying on them, why wouldn't we bring the reps in and say, hey, guess what? I have a fireball for you. You're going to go out and talk to doctors, and after you go out and talk to doctors, we're going to find out what else they wanted that you might not have delivered, and then you get a do-over and you can go back in and solve it. That's how you do it. That person is the closest to the fire of anybody. Why not bring the reps into the equation? Let them shape the questions. Let them shape how they're going to respond. And what we've seen when we do that is the reps get on board, and when the reps get the data, the best ones in the world start to show us how do we respond to data. I've seen data where we had a group of reps who got feedback and they would email the doctor and say, hey, we got your feedback and we're going to do some stuff about it. And then I had other groups of reps that showed up at the doctor's office within 24 hours and said, I'm here with the solution for you. And guess what changed for them? Access. And when you change access, you change prescribing. It's a business challenge. And I said that none of my other graphics would be messed up. And let's hope they're not. So, are we designing the experience they want or the one we want? Somebody, somewhere, thought this was the coolest thing in the world for kids. What did those kids want at the end of the day? What did they want? They wanted to feel like they were flying. That's it. They didn't even need this. But we built that, and the kids found a better way. So if we observe our customers, we can see what it is they want to do. And I'll send this to you. It's one of my favorite videos in the world. Yeah. I don't know what just happened here because there's supposed to be, this piece of graphic is here. Great. Got it. Good. My graphics are completely messed up. We're going to go with it. When it comes to AI, there's a quote from Justin Trudeau that says, this is the fastest we've ever gone and it is the slowest we will ever go again. Everything has changed. And the AI bubble is actually bursting with curiosity. Inside what you can learn inside of AI is also a curiosity engine. If you've got a bunch of patient data and you've got a bunch of response data and you're not using AI tools to tell you how to think about it, what actions you could possibly take and model those out, well, you're moving too slowly. This is the fastest we've ever gone, and it's the slowest we're ever going to go again. So I look at AI like this. I look at AI as an accelerant for inquiry. It helps me ask better and smarter questions. It helps me get exceedingly curious really quickly to levels I was never able to get curious before I had it. It also is about authentic interactions. Why are we not looking at AI as what do these people actually need? Maybe they didn't need a 42-page website. Maybe they just needed a picture. Maybe they needed something very simple. It helps us get down to authentic and valuable interactions. And at the end of the day, we keep looking at technology as ones and zeros, but the ones and zeros aren't what the technology is about. The technology is binary, but the result we want is not binary. It's emotional. We wanted X's and O's, not ones and zeros. So focus on the X's and O's and focus on the results. And when it comes down to another one, this is interesting. I'm never going to save a presentation this way again. So GPT I look at as gaining people's trust. That's what GPT is. When we look at these generative technologies, we should look at them as opportunities to get closer to people and gain their trust. And I don't believe that when we look at experience, any given pharmaceutical company has a compelling reason not to be putting experience at the very core. We should have a customer operating system. It should be how we drive our business forward. So that's experience as a medicine. And I love this quote from Andreessen Horowitz, that it's going to seem backwards and even barbaric that the way we handled everything was simply giving out a pill. Experience is medicine. And that picture was supposed to go with it. Before you look at this picture, don't look at this picture. This one right here. Does anybody know the significance of this picture? It's not real, I made it. We put a person on the moon 2 years before we put wheels on a suitcase. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? We shouldn't do that. So my apologies for some of the crazy slides, but you saw how you find me.